You are listening to the BlahCade Pinball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Freebus, aka Shut Your Trap. Joining me, as always, halfway across the world, Jared Morgan.
Good morning or evening, depending on when you're listening to this.
I was going to say, well, it's not evening here, but yeah, you're right. Depending on when you're listening to this, where you're listening to this, in your car, at your home, in your on a daily walk on the subway, wherever.
In your pinball den, surrounded by pinball machines. If that's the case, then what are you doing listening to us? Go play some
Right?
pinball.
Right? It's like, come on, you don't want to have this audio going on while you got the chimes and fun music of a regular table.
That's right.
Okay, Jared, I'm gonna do you a favor.
Okay.
I'm going to save my beginning of the show talk for the end of the show.
Ah, okay. So less editing for me. Nice.
So I finally placed my order to get the connectors for that I need to put on A-Ball Deluxe, and they've shipped. So now I'm just waiting for them to arrive.
Awesome.
And then starts the fun. And I'm wondering how best to tackle this.
So you're wondering, I now got to work out which wire goes into which socket outing.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, the wires are already in their current sockets.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm assuming that they're just in a number, slot rows or whatever. Because right now what it is if the wire gets pressed into a metal blade, if you will, that makes contact with the wire. So I'm assuming that those are in the particular order. And instead I'm going to be putting them into their new deal, which is going to just be in a straight row with the pins that you crimp onto the end of the wire.
Mm-hmm.
I believe those are, Molex? Is that what they call them?
Molex connectors, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to debate, is it a thing where I just do one wire at a time and, pull it out, make the connector, put it into the new connector, or is it better that I try and label every single wire and pull them all out at the same time so I have more freedom of movement? Or do I just go ahead and label them all and still do it one at a time?
There's two options you can do. If you've got a fair bit of cable left, like if there's a fair bit of slack in all the cables, you can just cut the wires off close to the bottom of the Molex plug, and then you'll have the wires hanging out the old Molex plug, and then you'll just be able to put the new Molex plug and match up the wire colors.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Match up the wire colors. Okay, because then you'll know exactly what order they're in on that way.
That's right. That's the other way. But sometimes with that approach, you're struggling with the length of the wires because they generally didn't give you a lot of extra play in the back box cables.
Yeah.
So you might need to. What a lot of people do is when they're recabling something like that, they'll actually put extensions on. Mm-hmm. So they'll actually go and put like an extra 1 or 2 inches of wire between the plug and the old wires, and actually just join them on and heat shrink them. And
I'm not doing that.
No. So the other option is to split the plug open, or just try and pull the wires out best you can. I think there's a way you can actually put a thin screwdriver, one of those little jeweler's screwdrivers in, to trip the metal catch that actually holds the contact in. Then you should be able to slide the whole contact out.
Well, no. There is no contact on the wires that I have. Most of my wire, there's only, I think, 2 of all of my connectors that are actual Molex connectors. Everything else is the original Bally connector, where it's, like I said, it's just you took the wire and you just pushed it into the slot, and then the little metal edges sliced the outer cable and then made the contacts with.
I know the ones you're talking about. Yeah, they're terrible.
Right.
No wonder you're having so much trouble with your connectors. Yeah, because the thing with the other ones, the Molex plug, is because you have the crimping tool, you're actually crimping the wire on really hard. But these ones just push in. Like the other ones you're talking about, like little push in, and you're right, the little metal blades of the contacts will cut the insulation for you. Yeah, they're horrible.
So that's the majority of what I'm going to be dealing with. So yeah, when everybody says, "Did you change connectors?" That's why I'm changing the connectors.
Oh well, that's even easier, because you're right. You'll be able to just pull the wire out of each of the slots.
Right.
So all you need to do really is just take a photograph, a really good close-up photograph of the wires. And because wires are wires, they'll actually have a memory on them. So it shouldn't actually, as you know, when you've been when you had to strip the playfield, the wires do tend to keep their shape. Yeah. So you shouldn't have too much trouble just taking off the wires, putting the little terminals on, and then putting them back in the way they were. That should be pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Have you got a good pair of wire strippers so you can get that nice exposed end?
Ordered it. Well, actually, I don't know if the I take it back. I don't know if the crimping tool comes with a wire stripper on it. Probably doesn't. So I can easily find a wire stripper. That's
yeah. The ones the crimping tool might have a wire stripper on it, but it's going to be pretty crap.
Right, so, instead of specific wire, the strippers where you actually put the correct gauge in.
Yes, well, you can get those ones which are cheap, or you can get the other ones which will make your life a whole lot easier. And they're the ones that are actually almost like a pair of pliers, I guess, but they're actually spring loaded. So you have a depth gauge.
Yes,
and you basically the teeth sort of go shrunk, and then there's a little blade underneath it. It'll just go and strip the wire back.
Yep, and then you just pull.
You just basically go across all your wires like that, and it's dead easy. They're a little bit more expensive than the $2 ones that have different gauge holes in it. But you'll get a much better. You'll thank yourself for spending the extra bucks on it, particularly if you've got a lot of wires to do. The other disadvantage with the cheaper ones is that it's very easy to cut through the wire. Accidentally when you're trying to strip the outside off. But these ones have a depth, basically they won't cut anything more than the depth. So you're going to save yourself a lot of short wire issues if you buy the more expensive ones.
So that's excited to have that come in, and hopefully that solves the problems that I have.
I think you're probably right, because what you probably find is when you take the insulation off where the wires have been inserted into the thing, you'll probably find there's a bit of corrosion in those bits where the wires are actually exposed. And that will probably be, if you take a close look at them, that will probably be the reason why you've got the problem.
Well, and again, for people that, because this was many podcasts back that we talked about it, I have a specific circuit of lights that are out. And having changed all the little transistor or whatever you want to call it,
transistors
that were burnt out or possibly bad, I'm left with the idea that it's got to be the connector. Because, and again, when I first bought the table, all the lights were working. When I first got it home, all the lights were working. And then when I read Pinside and it said, first thing you want to do is disconnect everything and then plug it all back in for, I forget whatever reason it said that. And I did that. And that's when I all of a sudden had lights that didn't work.
Yep. So that's a classic case of, well, the last thing you touched was the connectors. So it's a connector.
Yeah.
Did you get what you can get from a lot of places is fiberglass pencils? Have you found anywhere that over there that sells a fiberglass pencil?
I've not looked for a fiberglass pencil. Why do I want a fiberglass pencil?
Fiberglass pencils are a burnishing tool. So what they are is basically there's a core that's made up of fiberglass, and you can basically take something rusted and crap and turn it into polished metal with one of these things. And the reason why I'm saying that is what you'll probably find is over the years, the standoffs of the boards that you've got.
Right, the connector heads.
Yep, the connector heads. Those will actually be all tarnished and have probably continuity issues or a buildup of grunge on them that basically means the contacts aren't probably making contact properly. So if you get one of these pencils, they're inexpensive. Well, I'll rephrase it. They're more expensive over here than they are over there in the US. So fiberglass pencils, they're often called magic pencils. But yeah, you can get them. You can get them in different sizes. The ones that I have ready access to over here are about $18, and they're small. But I can get them on eBay for much less than that. And you can get all different sizes. The guys at TNT Amusements on their YouTube channel, constantly say how good these are for actually cleaning up terminals and all this sort of stuff that always get tarnished.
Okay.
So that would actually be, you could almost try that first on the terminals that you know are really bad, like all the GI lights and all the light circuits that are always running hot all the time.
Yeah.
Give them a good burnish with this tool and see what happens after that. Because it might go some ways to fixing the problem. If you know that you can get better continuity that way, then you know exactly that doing the terminals, doing the connectors is a good move, because what will happen is the old style terminals will also have like a tarnish and buildup of oxidization on them.
Mm-hmm.
So by swapping out the terminals, you're going to get even better connectivity. So you're going to have years of reliability out of them after you isolate the issue.
Right.
So yeah, they're easy to find. You can probably find them in any one of your electronic shops that you frequent. Just ask them for fiberglass pencils, and they'll put you in the right direction.
All right, I will have to. I'll have to look into that and do so.
I used one on the other pinball I did up to clean off the contacts. Like I just took all the contacts out and just burnished them, all the little contact pads with this thing, and it just cleans them up from being black to completely glossy and good again. So they're very good.
All right. Let's see what else is going on. Well, folks, we don't really have any bonsai run per se to talk about. Jared actually can mention some things, but we're still another week without it. It'll be actually when you listen to this podcast, it'll be released at the end of that week. So I believe they are looking at like March 7th or something like that. I'm not quite sure what the date is, but it's definitely in this first week of March here.
Yeah,
probably March 9th is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it'll be towards the end, because they've still got a bit of work to do on Android to get it working right. There's some camera angle issues. And of course, obviously the usual texture issues you get in early betas, but I'm sure they'll be resolved.
Right.
It's a sharp looking playfield. They've done a great job at touching it up. I saw the actual original playfield shots of it without any art touch up, and it's pretty rough. So yeah, they've done a great job in post fixing that up. We had a weird bug in the beta with the cameras. So when you got up to the upper playfield, it didn't actually zoom out. So all you could see is a very lower set of flippers. That's it. And of course, obviously that makes it very hard, because if you manage to shoot up to the next area in the playfield, you're just flipping blindly. And things happen so fast up there that it was very quickly your ball drained back down the out hole again. So it was a little bit frustrating, but that's just something they're going to get to when they get to it.
Right.
So that's fine. Overall, though, it's a fun game. Like, really, you can tell that all the action is on the top playfield, though, right? Like the bottom playfield, it's pretty sparse.
Yeah, but it's also see, this is the this is the reason why I was like, careful what you wish for, folks. Because the upper playfield is also painful. I mean, it's not fun to play the vertical playfield, because you're playing a pachinko machine.
Yeah.
And it's brutal, and there's no flow to it. So I don't know. To me, it's not pinball per se. It feels like more of those little plastic BB games that you had with the little flip trigger on the bottom that you just go flick, and then try and launch the ball into a little cup.
My favorite pinballers.
Hold on, we gotta put you on mute because we're in the middle of recording here. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So it reminds me of one of those little plastic BB pinball flicking games where you would flick the. I mean, they're like micro size, and it has a little cup that would have the point or whatever. It's just kind of, I don't know, willy nilly. There's physics, but it's not your typical physics. You're not letting the ball bounce and jump around, and so that's I don't know. That's what the upper playfield to me is kind of not fun, but the lower playfield, you're right. There's not much to do.
Not much to do in there.
So, like I said, it's one of those things where the game itself is a cool gimmick and certainly unique. And I'm glad we have it because it is Pat Lawler's first, at least for Williams. I don't know if it's his first in general.
I think it is his very first.
And so I totally appreciate it that way. I think it looks cool and it's got interesting sounds going on and everything, but it's not the game that you may have think that you're getting. So
yeah, it's gonna punish you, and it's gonna punish you very hard. But you know, that actually could be a good thing because we don't have a game in the collection, I think, that will be this hard. Some of those EMs have come close. They're pretty brutal in their gameplay, but this thing is going to sort you out for sure. So yeah, maybe that's just what we need. So I don't know. I think it's kind of good.
So what do you got?
Well, I was going to mention I got to play some real pinball this week, but what were you going to talk about?
No. Go. I've got a tangent of pinball related, certainly, but go. I'd rather hear about real pinball.
Well, this week has been pretty cool because out of the blue, Netherworld have managed to get total nuclear annihilation.
Oh, okay.
Which is surprising because when I spoke to Jimmy, is the owner, at one point he goes, we just missed a shipment from the US over to Australia on the slow boat. So we won't be able to get one for a while. No, that's no worries. He goes, but the good news is we get to get dialed in. I said, well, that's a happy accident. No, not a really bad thing. I'm actually okay with that. But then out of the blue, here it is on the floor, TNA in all its glory. I was very surprised to see it, and I thought, well, on Friday I should go there and put a couple of tokens in it and see what the thing's all about. And I've got to say that Spooky Pinball and Scott Denisi really have got something special going on here. The profile of the pinball cabinet itself, next to something like Dialed In, it actually even looks like an old System 11. It's got the same like overall cabinet angles on it that an old System 11 would have. So it doesn't look like a modern Stern.
Gotcha. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so even they've got that down as far as the presentation aspect of the game goes, which I thought was really impressive. From the outside of the cabinet perspective, it's all laser cut rails. So everything on it, it looks like an old cabinet, but it's got all the new things that we kind of have been seeing recently on cabinets. And it looks really, really nice. So the game itself has actually got 4 old style alpha displays on it. So not alphanumeric, just alpha score displays.
Wow.
Yep. And then they're all LED, but they're like they're just in one big row across just below the back glass. And then below that, you've got the big LCD screen. So again, they've kept with that old school aesthetic of having actual score displays, but then have enhanced the overall experience with the big screen. And I actually met up, I happened to get there at lunchtime and ran across one of the mates that I usually play pinball with at the Brisbane Pinball Club. And so we arrived at the same time, and I've been looking forward to playing this. He goes, well, let's have a 2-player game. And it's an interesting game to play in 2-player because you can steal locks.
I love being able to do that.
Oh, yeah. And he was so cut. It was so good. He goes, you just stole a multi-ball, you bastard. And it says, well, I'm sure you'll get me back at some other point. And sure enough, he did. I had 2 balls locked, and then he stole my lock. So it all pays out after all. But definitely, it's an interesting game from that perspective because that will be a single-player only game in tournaments. Because in the rules, like, you know, we any game that allows you to steal multi-balls like Addams Family or anything like that, it's always single player only.
See, we did that in our league because, you know, you'd have 4 people playing on the table at any given time, and there is many a table that would allow you to do exactly that, steal somebody else's multi-ball buildups. And I remember I had it. I spent all of ball 1 building up. I didn't collect it. The person after me didn't collect it. The third person was like, sweet, hit one shot, boom, collected the multi-ball. So then fourth person locked like one ball, and then it came back around to me because I was the starting person, and I purposely didn't lock any balls.
Oh,
because
really?
I knew that I wouldn't be able to collect them other than, you know, out of sheer luck. And so by the time it came back around to my third ball, sure enough, all the balls were locked. And so I went and tried for it, and I failed, unfortunately, to snake it, and then the next person did. But it became a strategy of, okay, wait, am I going to let somebody else have this opportunity, or am I going to make them earn it and forego trying to get it myself? And so it was weird, but it's so much fun to see the anguish on somebody else's face. It's great.
It is fantastic. I think almost we should consider allowing 4-player games. Because it's like it really does. You're right; it does change the way you play.
Yeah.
One of those tables. So the thing that I think the biggest standout thing it was a number actually of standout things on this table, which really impressed me for what it is and what it's trying to be, and that is it has been reported as being very brutal, but I don't know, maybe they had set it up a little bit softer at Netherworld because we have a wide range of people playing it at Netherworld. But I found it to be quite accessible, no more brutal than a System 11 game. But not this level of brutality that I've heard other people talk about. It's still hungry, but you've got things like this neat little ball save reactivation thing, a little bit like Zen actually, where if you complete the 4 lanes, you get this singular flashing lamp that you can move to either outlane. If you drop the ball down it, you'll actually get your ball back.
Oh, okay.
So that's really good. Like if you use that as a strategy, then fine. Like that actually extends your gameplay on the table. It's really good. I really do like the ball lock mechanism on it. It's a bit of a highlight of the game. It uses the 2 favorite things, which is drop targets and they're stage drop targets as well. So like they're in a row, like 8-Ball Deluxe is, which is lovely. But yeah, then you throw ball locks into the same mechanism. It's like, that is pretty cool the way they've done that. But then the standout thing is this whole game is RGB lights. Even the GI is RGB. And what was interesting listening to some recent interviews that Scott Denisi, the designer, gave about the table is that, I've seen games like Wizard of Oz go full RGB on everything. And for me, I felt it was just a little bit it was RGB all the time on that table, and it just got a little bit too much. So what I did is I was inspired by what they did, but I dialed it back a little bit and used RGBs when it was logical to use RGBs. And you see it in the attract mode. There's this bit where it's just before the grand champion score comes in, and the lights are going down the table, and you see this wave of lights goes chunk, and then there's another layer, a little bit like Tetris, on top of the other, and each one is a different colored stage light. And it just looks, I just went, wow. And I managed to get it on video to see it happening. And I'm just that is just such a cool lighting effect. Everything on that area was the same color, even the GI. And there's other things that when you start up a reactor and it goes critical on the game, the reactor core area, which is the bit at the top where the rollovers are, they've got the effect of like one of those police lights that spin. So that whole light casting around doing the chasing.
Right.
So they've actually emulated that effect with all the GI in that area. So everything below the plastics is just cycling around.
Oh, that's cool.
Like that. It just looks amazing. Like the orchestration and the light show effects in this are really, really a highlight of the game. And I will look forward to pumping a lot more money into this thing. Because it just feels fun to play. It's one of those classic System 11s where you go, oh, I'll just have one more game on that. I reckon I could get to Reactor 2. And it is fun. So, I'm very, very glad that Netherworld managed to find one of these and actually get it on site. So
now I saw that you also remembered to bring your headphones and were able to play dialed in with headphones on.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Right?
I did. And again, they've not got that game turned up nearly loud enough. And I'll argue that they actually don't have Total Nuclear Annihilation turned up very loud either. That thing has an incredible sound system in it. By design, because Scott Denisi is actually one of his other jobs as a music producer.
Oh, okay.
So he actually did the entire soundtrack for this.
Which apparently they sent out on crappy cassette tapes.
Yes,
which
absolutely.
maintains the 80s theme.
It is fantastic. Yeah, they're quite expensive. They're like $15 US, and to get them to Australia, I think it works out to be something like total charge with exchange rate about $70 or $80 for one of these to actually get the thing shipped. But the thing is, it's actually less about playing it and more about it's actually a piece of collectible art.
Right.
They've even done like the J card inside the set. That's all been completely customized, and it's one of those throw clear J cards. And there's been a lot of work put into the package, so it's more like it's really more of an art piece than it is something you would put into your cassette player. But the other thing, that if you're interested, is you can go and access the Total Nuclear Annihilation soundtrack on Spotify and listen to it for free. Okay. So the entire thing is on there, and it's interesting to listen to it outside the game. It actually is something that if you like electronic music, you will probably enjoy, because it's actually not only is it good for the game, but it's actually just good electronic music. So yeah, I did listen to the entire soundtrack from start to end, and it's actually one of those sort of soundtracks that you have running in the background while you're trying to do some work, or at least that's what I used it for. So yeah, I was blown away by that, and the entire game is amazing. And you know, if I back to dialed in.
I was like, you lost your thought there, Jared. I can see it happening.
You can see the thing is though, you can see what's impressed me more. Like compared to dialed in and this, I'm actually more excited about this than dialed in, which is interesting because dialed in is a much more deeper game. It's got a lot more going on. But yes, the audio in dialed in is crucial to playing this game, as you say. Like I didn't realize just how crucial it is until you plug those headphones in and you get it piping into your ears. The other thing that's very nice about dialed in is that compared to doing the same thing with Wizard of Oz, the audio is far better. So the way that they've been able to master the audio and stop all the pops and clicks in the audio that they got in that very first board set is you can definitely see they put some effort into it. So I ended up getting about 380,000.
Oh, that's pretty good on that.
On a ball, and I attribute it directly to the fact I could hear everything. Like it is definitely Q City. Like you need that audio to be able to understand that game, unless you're very familiar with it and you then know what those lights are. Right. But the thing is that everything is flashing on that game, so you don't actually know. Unless it's a really intense white flash, you don't really know that, oh, okay, that's probably a priority. I should be shooting that.
Yeah.
But the voice prompt will go, I'll shoot the spider or shoot the subway or shoot this. It's like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And I ended up getting 2 multi-balls started. I got I think the main multi-ball, and I got the one with the dude on a stick multi-ball, I call it, where it's just sliding backwards and forwards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I got 2 of those started, and then the score just blew up. So it was fun. I'll be definitely, obviously, I will only play a pinball machine if it's with headphones, if it's got a headphone port, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But even with it up maximum, I couldn't actually, it was actually quite soft still. Like it was loud enough that I could actually hear everything clearly, but like I think it was about the same volume as the speaker volume when you actually have it connected through your headphones, which is unusual. Because you can normally
have a little volume dial-up button on the front.
Yeah, it's got the volume rocker on it, but the volume rocker was rocked all the way up to the top, and it was still. It wasn't like pumping in your ears. It was just. It was enough that you could still hear the flippers and still hear the mechanical elements of the game, but you could hear the audio and hear the music over the rest of the ambient sound in the arcade. So maybe it was actually perfect, the amount of volume you had there. because it wasn't too immersive. It was just immersive enough for me.
Because it's weird. When I played Game of Thrones with headphones on, it was so loud that you couldn't hear any of the mechanical sounds of the table. And that's a bit odd.
Yeah, it is a bit odd. Yeah,
because it's a little sensory deprivation. You still have it in the feel of the the physical machine itself, but you're just not hearing all the clack, especially when it's going in pop bumpers and stuff.
You're not hearing the pinball.
It's a little bit odd.
Yes,
but yeah.
The other thing that I noticed with Dialed In is I think they've got a bit of a design flaw in the game, and that is on the ramp that returns you back, or the habit rail that returns you back down to the left in lanes. When the ball comes back down that habit rail, it bounces off every single time and hops off the ramp and then jumps into a random in lane. So I've had it like every single time jump off that that habit rail and do weird things, like jump off, hit a plastic, and then trickle into the lane. I've never really had it go and stay in the lane that it's supposed to be coming out of, which I think they needed probably because it sort of goes across and then it does a really sharp dog leg. Yeah. It's at that dog leg at the end of it where the ball drops through. They needed, like on the older Belly Williams tables, a really big sort of like extra bit of chrome up the top that would funnel the ball back in. And they don't have it. It's just a very shallow drop in. So I think that part of the rail could do with a bit of a redesign or some sort of aftermarket mod to stop it from jumping.
I wonder if it's just happening on your table or if this is a common problem.
I don't know if anyone else has dialed-ins. I think the boys at Head to Head Pinball have access to dial-in, so maybe I'll drop them a quick message and see if it's doing it for them. It might just be the table is either too steep or too shallow, one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But it feels like it plays fast to me. So I don't know, maybe it needs a little bit more rake on it. I don't know.
All right. Hey, let's dip into the digital pinball realm.
Okay.
Remember when we used to do, by say we, I mean Sean, used to do Lost in the Zone?
Yes.
Fire up that music, Jared.
Yeah. Did we even have music for it?
We used to. Didn't we?
Yeah, I'm
pretty sure we did. Anyway, the reason why I say that is the Moon Knight challenge that we had running for 2 weeks, basically, with 5 different modes. It is complete. We're done. We are all
very good.
Yes. And I can safely say that there is nothing hidden within Moon Knight anymore to me.
Right. You've seen it all.
I have seen it all. So as a reminder to everybody, what we did was we started off with a 3-ball challenge, no mods whatsoever. Then we did a 5-minute challenge with a certain set of mods, then 1-ball survival, and then we finished off with a week worth of 3-ball with whatever mods you wanted to. And it's kind of funny because we had significant player drop off for that final tournament. We only had 12 players, where normally we were cruising around 30. And I think it's because, well, twofold. One, table fatigue. But by that point, it was just like, oh my God, really? Here we go. And then 2, the rankings of our players, it was all but a lock that this one player, Tritium03, was going to win the whole thing. It was just mathematically the only way that he could possibly not win the whole thing was to either not play the table at all or place outside of the top 10. And considering that he had already placed in second place for 3 out of the 4 tournaments and third place in that 4th tournament, it was pretty much a given that he was not going to be bumped. So he mathematically became the winner. And then it just came down to second place, and that was between 3 of us. And I wound up taking that by completely dominating this table. So I just kind of wanted to go a little bit into Moon Knight. I kind of developed a strategy for this table, and I wanted to kind of wrap this all up into the idea of Zen. You need to rebalance the scoring on this thing. Because, okay, so Moon Knight has, and I mentioned it in previous podcasts, it has this weird clock face on it, and I had no idea what the clock face did.
Yes.
I now understand what the clock face does, in that the hour hand, whenever you shoot the right ramp, it advances, I believe you have to actually shoot it twice, but it'll then advance the hour hand 1 hour.
Okay.
Each time you move that the hour hand to a different hour, it selects a new mode, one of the 4 modes that are lightable on that ramp. So it's like Whirlybird and Speed Punch, and I forget what the other 2 are. But anyway, the minute hand is done with the left ramp, and it moves much faster around the board, but it moves in 5-minute increments. Okay. So depending on where the hour hand and the minute hand are, that tells you what modes are currently available, the mini modes, I should say, are currently available. If, however, you line them up at midnight, then you start what's called Nightmare mode. And Nightmare is hands down the most fun part of the table. Right. Because what it does is it starts a multi-ball with balls that are on fire. You start with 2 balls, and you can eventually increase it to 3 balls. But there is some crazy magnet action going on, or anti-gravity. I don't know what it is, but the balls will only very briefly have normal physics to them.
Oh.
So it'll be, dropping towards your flipper, and you're getting ready to flip, and also it'll just jank off on a right angle away from your flipper.
Oh, that sounds cool.
And I've had balls where literally I missed it, and it was starting to go down center drain, and then rose back up. If the ball is coming and you merely tap it with your flipper, it'll then rise up again out of, it won't fall down. So you can't catch any of the balls. As they're coming down the in lane is about the only time that they are behaving normally. Or when you give a full flip to them, then they'll behave normally with where the trajectory goes. But it becomes this random, just crazy wherever the balls are going thing. While all this is going on, each lane is rapidly lighting and unlighting, and going in sequence across the board. If you happen to get the ball in there when it's lit, that's how you score a super jackpot.
Oh, okay.
Now, super jackpot in normal mode, without having the multi-ball bonus multiplier running, is worth 4 million.
Okay.
To give you perspective, when you finish the very first main mode, that only nabs you 2 million.
Right.
The next mode you beat, you'll now. And that's 1 million and 1 million score. It's like a double bonus add up. The next time, if you have 2 modes completed, then you get 2 million, and I forget what the second multiplier winds up being based off of. But you don't really earn that much for completing modes. Whereas in Nightmare, so long as you can keep those balls going, you can hit super jackpot lane as many times as possible. And because I had the multi-ball bonus multiplier going on, which multiplies all scores by 2, you're talking 8 million. So when we were playing survival, all you had to do was just play that mode, and I racked up 70 million in survival mode. The person that won it racked up 111 million.
Jeez.
So it's this crazy mode. It's the only mode that has massive amounts of scoring. And here's the thing, you can get it at launch.
You can get it at launch?
So what you do when you're launching the ball is don't launch the ball. You wait because as you're waiting there, the clock hands are rotating and going. And so you wait until the hour hand is at the 10 o'clock, and the minute hand, when it comes around to 25, launch right then. What that'll do is, if you get your timing just right, when the ball comes through down and finally to your flippers, that clock will be locked in at 11 o'clock. So now all you have to do is shoot the right ramp twice. Nightmare mode starts.
All right.
So that's how quickly you can get it. And you do that every single time you launch a ball. You just wait for it and do it. So that's how you can get some crazy scores going. So here's why the table desperately needs some rebalancing is you shouldn't have the mode that can score the most points available to you right at the beginning of a game.
No.
And especially when after you complete all your modes and you go into and you finally get into wizard mode, which is a bear to get into. I mean, not only is it a task of completing, because you're basically lighting all of the Moon Knight insert lights.
Yep.
So that's completing the 4 modes plus Nightmare mode. That's the 5th mode, and then there's another 4 modes, I believe, beyond that. And once you do that, then you shoot the mission hole one more time, and you start part 1 of the wizard goal, which is basically hurry-ups of trying to shoot the ball into lanes. And then once you complete all the hurry-ups, then it starts a multi-ball at you, first with essentially a whirly-bird multi-ball, which is the glowing hot white balls that are...
Right.
So you start doing that, but here's the thing. Shoot a lane, it's worth 1 million points.
A lane is worth 1 million.
Yes. So you can real quickly start just racking up. But because they're those fiery white-hot balls, it's really hard to aim.
Shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then as soon as you lose one of those, then the balls turn into the flame ball. But it's not like Nightmare mode where the gravity or the magnets or whatever are going nuts. It's just they're on fire. Same thing though. Shoot a lane is worth 1 million points. But the thing is that I earned more points in Nightmare multi-ball than I did in the Wizard mode.
Which doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right at all. So... And what it becomes is the table becomes completely anticlimactic in that you know that if you didn't have a good Nightmare multi-ball right off the bat when you first launched, just restart the table because it's not worth going forward. It literally became a thing where if I didn't score at least 25 million or whatever, I would just stop and restart. Right. And that's poor balancing. The flip side, and there's a few System 11 and Williams and Bally games that are the same way, where they just kind of become a slog.
Yeah. I mean, there's some System 11 games that if you're in multi-ball, you get nothing. But if you go and shoot the million ramp over and over and over and over again, it's far more lucrative than actually doing multi-ball.
A classic example of this is if you play Creature from the Black Lagoon. To me, there is no other purpose on that table than to get into multi-ball, because that's where all the points are.
Yeah.
And this is when we're playing it on TPA. Playing it in real life, good luck.
Yeah, have fun with that.
Get your points where you can get them. But when you're playing digitally,
most likely it's going to drain all the time because it's horrible. Yeah.
But even that, in terms of getting multi-ball, each time you beat or get your super jackpot, and now you have to kind of restart the mode again, or not. You're not restarting the mode, but you're starting back at square one in multi-ball. But it's now multiplied how many points you can earn. So at least there's that. Whereas with this table with Moon Knight, there never seemed to be enough of multiplication to the points. And again, it would be nice if you could stack modes. It would be nice if it had better reward for getting to the end. Anything of that nature would be key. For me, a good example of how to do it is with Ripley's Believe It or Not. In that it doesn't matter how many times you go through all the modes, they're getting better and better scoring each and every time. And each time you complete all the continents, you're now getting it's stacking how many points you're earning. So you're rewarded for grinding, basically. Whereas this one, there's no reward for grinding per se. Not enough reward. So another thing that the table has, and it's probably the weirdest mode I've ever seen, they call it Respected Citizen. So when you start this up, it becomes a stock trading game.
Oh yeah, I triggered that the other day. I went, what is this?
Right.
So hard to understand for me. Could you tell me how that works?
Yeah, so basically what happens is it's a rolling number that is going up and down in terms of the price of the stock. So you want to buy low and you want to sell high. The way you buy and sell is by shooting any of the lanes or ramps. Once you shoot that lane, then it says you bought the stock or sold the stock. To alternate between, if you're buying or selling, you push the launch button. So clearly, if the stock price is anything above 50, you want to be selling. If it's anything below 50, you want to be buying. I played this mode for a couple of minutes straight. I happen to have been really on my game in terms of hitting ramps, just comboing them and over and over again. All told, I wound up with a score total of just north of 2 million.
Oh, really?
I spent all this time, and that's the best that I could do. And so then I was like, okay, maybe I need to, instead of just willy-nilly, so long as it was, below 50 buy and above 50 sell, I was like, okay, I'm not going to shoot when it's those. I'm going to wait for it to get down to, below 20 and above 80 so that there's really a profit margin, happening. And I concentrated on doing that. Same result. Still just it was just like any mode that you can spend this much time on needs to have some payout, and it didn't have the payout.
Yeah, see, that's no good.
No. And not only that, but each time you shot a lane, it reset the timer for how much time you had to stay within the mode.
Oh, so unless you completely trapped the ball and just flipped around on random things, you could never end the mode.
Right, and then how you end the mode is by shooting the sinkhole at the very top center of the table again, which is how you started the mode to begin with, and that's how you cash out basically with what you're doing. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just like, man, this game would be so much better if you just go in and rebalance it. Another tactic
really does sound like a punishment, eh? I'll just go. I don't even think I'll be bothered with that mode now. If I get it, I'll just go, whatever, just shoot the top hole and move on.
And literally, that's it. The only reason why you want that mode to start is because it lights one of the letters, one of the insert letters. So
it's just grinding, right? It's grinding to the wizard mode.
Yeah,
that's rubbish.
So one of the other things, one of the other tactics that I would always employ also is, if you start police scanner, it turns all the lanes into a little blinking blue light that determines what mode of police scanner you, what particular mission mode you start. I don't care what mission mode you start. They're all pretty easy because it only takes 1 or 2 lanes to shoot and the mode is complete. But then you have the fun task of there's a car on the lower left hand side of the playfield. And it's a bear to shoot the ball into that.
Is there a hole underneath that?
Yeah, there's a hole underneath that.
And so basically, no idea.
And that's actually how you start any of these. So you light the mission, and then in order to actually start the mission going, you have to shoot it into that car. So once you shoot it into that car, then it doesn't matter if you actually are successful or fail. At the end of it, the car will then light on fire. If you shoot the ball up the left ramp, the ball will go through the car fire basically, and now your ball is on fire.
Yeah.
From there are 5 different call them cauldrons or basins that are at various different lanes. So it's basically your 2 orbit lanes, your 2 ramps, and your mission lane. Shoot the ball up any of those, that'll light the cauldron. When you light the 5th cauldron, you get 2 million points and the extra ball light.
Wow.
I was able to stack 3 extra balls at one given time. I don't know how many extra balls you can actually get on this table, but I'm telling you, you can get a lot.
Yeah. That is, after 3 extra balls stacked, I'd just be going, I'm done with this table now.
Well, and again, it becomes this, it's you're grinding. That's what it is all about. And
I mean, if your strategy is to get to the wizard mode, then those extra balls will be handy.
Right, then they can become handy.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, not really. Well, that's very interesting. That you got that far in the game, you're able to see under the hood of it essentially and really get to know it.
Right, you really get to know it. I wound up taking first place on the 3 ball anything goes challenge at 516 million, and second place was second place with 342 million. So I schooled it pretty good.
You sure did. Yeah, you well and truly pwned that table for sure.
That being said, on the 1 ball challenge day, somebody scored 280 million.
That's pretty good on 1 ball.
On 1 ball. and that's 1 ball. No extra balls are included.
I was going to ask if extra balls count for your 1 ball.
No, it just gives you, I forget what the bonus points is that it gives you when you collect it. But yeah, So I was full on expecting to see somebody score 1 billion points on this. And I think everybody just couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, they just went, I'm out of fracks for this table. I don't have 2 fracks to rub together for it anymore. So what's the next one? And will you do the same sort of format?
Well, some things that we learned with this. Yes, fatigue is a big factor. Don't do anything that is a week long with it. The more ideal setting would be to do, because we did a whole bunch where it was only 1 day, and people were kind of like, well, the problem with that is I didn't have enough time to play, and so I felt pressured, and so that made me kind of resent having to play.
Right.
Whereas if we had made it all 2-day tourneys, that would have been much more digestible for it. You have enough time to play, but you're also not having to worry about
if you have a conflict
through it over a week.
Or if you have like a conflict 1 day, and that means you can get 3 different modes in typically during a week, right?
Yeah. The other thing, and I didn't even think about this, but Ksenia actually, Sven, we know him as here on the podcast, pointed out. So I had a thing that if you scored within the top 10 on all 5 tournaments, then you would get an extra 1,000 points. Thinking, well, hey, this is how we'll motivate people to stick with it. But then as Sven pointed out, well, there was a day that he wasn't able to play. And now he's penalized for not placing in the top 10, and the other people are raised up for it. And he said, if anything, make it where it's your top 4 out of 5 scores count.
Oh, okay. Yep. That's fair enough.
So that way, if you have a day that you botched or you weren't able to play, then fine, you're forgiven.
That's your grace.
That's your grace. And by the same hand, if there's a day where you're a particular mode that you're just horrible at, then that's your throwaway, and the other ones will count. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So there's some adjustments that can be made.
The only way you're going to get to know this is to just experiment with it, because
exactly
until you play, you don't know how you need to rebalance things.
Yeah. So I think we're going to. It'll be a little while before we try another one of these, because I think it does kind of ask a lot. There's you notice that there's maybe 8 players that you see their names over and over again, and everybody else is just kind of randomly popping in, popping out, and whether they care or not care. So there's that aspect. I really wish that Zen could implement something where it's a multi-stage tournament that you can design, so that I'm not having to keep a piece of paper near me with all my scores of everybody's doing and keeping track, because that also had the potential of becoming cumbersome.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's some other aspects that we could tweak with scoring. So if you have any suggestions about doing this kind of a tournament and how to score it, I would love to hear them. Either the easiest way is to drop us an email. That's BlahCade@gmail.com. The other way would be to pop onto the tournament thread forum on Pinball Arcade Fans, and you'll easily find where this particular thread is. It's right at the top, and you can put your comments in there. But yeah, so that's our. We haven't done a deep dive on a table in a very long time, but there you go. So Jared, do what you do best. Shut the door.
Yeah. Don't shut the door. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I asked you to do that. All right.
Yeah, that's right. As you can tell by my somewhat strange response.
You're like, what? Is that something I used to do? I don't know.
I used to do this? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, so Zen fired out a tweet that wound up being on Medium from an article that was on medium.com, go figure. And it was kind of interesting. It's some company, it's a French company, and I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's Ouigo, Ouigo. They are a low-cost railway service. And they were looking at, I guess, some interesting way of marketing what they do.
I've actually played this.
You've actually played this. And
I have, yeah.
So I was reading the article about this particular game, and what's funny is This is marketers right off the bat. Hey, wouldn't that be cool if we did some pinball game? Yeah. Hey, has anyone of us play pinball? No. Has anyone else ever designed a game? No. Oh, we want this to be able to play in your browser. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah. I've got to say that for a browser pinball game,
yeah,
it was pretty good. I was very impressed, eh?
So some of the things that they talk about in this article, and Jared can post a link to this on our website, and you'll be able to just click it and follow the link, or you can just search Zen's under their Pinball Effects Twitter handle. That's where I saw it.
Or you could just follow me because I just gave it applause and medium. So
there you go. But they basically go through all the steps of them deciding to do this, then starting to do their research, all the way to figuring out, hey, should we make this a 2D physics or 3D physics? And then how do you apply the graphics to make it look 3D, even though you're really technically still a 2D source? Is kind of fascinating to read, but the ultimate thing that they come down to was they wanted to have it a physical cabinet that people could play. And so they build a upright arcade cabinet, which I just kind of went, okay, you just kind of botched it there. But where they really botched it was they put the screen in landscape instead of portrait.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are you doing? Wrong. You people clearly don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just scrolling through the article now and going, huh.
It's definitely worth a read just to see what goes into a big idea like this, and maybe makes you appreciate what Zen and Farsight do.
The thing that's
with theirs.
The thing that is actually lovely is the aesthetic on this table. It's a very unusual sort of design. It is one of those classic. It is very much inspired by Zen in that the fact that it expands upon, like, outside the realms of a regular pinball table. Like, it doesn't sit within like a cabinet, for example.
Right.
Like, you got bits that are sort of jutting out here and extra play fields there and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, when I was playing this game, I just wanted to have one more game on it. Just one more. It was really, really playable, and the physics were actually relatively good. I didn't notice too much problem with that, but the only thing that was frustrating was that you actually needed, like, I was playing this on my MacBook, and even it was having some troubles running it at a good clip. And I think I did load it up on my Pixel XL at the time, and it was okay on that. But again, it was in a browser, and I just wish that they would just go and package this and release it on the App Store and make it a native app, because it would be really good. I would get it, and I'd probably even throw them a couple of bucks because it's actually really quite fun.
I don't know. Aesthetically, though, to me, it looks very Candyland.
Oh, it is totally Candyland, but that's actually the appeal of it for me. Like, it's very different to what a lot of the other pinball tables are out there, and it reminds you that this is actually a world. This isn't actually a real pinball simulation, and that, I think, is the important thing to remember here.
One of the things that cracked me up within the article, they were saying, well, one of the things we had to have is DMD because it's not pinball without DMD. And again, you can, clearly you don't play pinball because there was many years.
Exactly.
So yeah, anyway, check out that article, give it a read, folks, and see what you think.
Yeah, I'm going to read this in more detail. I'll keep it up in the screen so I can see it, and I will definitely add it to the show notes. It's there's lots of really cool pictures of the design, and even things like height maps and stuff like that, which I had no idea what they are. So I've got a lot of geeking out to do on this article. It was a good find. Thanks for sharing that. That'll be fun to read through.
Speaking of articles, and this would be the portion of the show that would have been at the beginning of the show, but is now at the end of the show. So I've posted yet more reviews, and folks, basically, I'm all caught up on my backlog of movies to see. So now it'll just be as they release in the theaters, then I can play catch up. So it's basically, you'll get maybe 2 reviews out of me a week. But if you go to our website, that is BlahCadePinball.com/episodes, that'll get you to the main page. And from there, if you just click on articles, you'll find all of the past reviews that I've written. But yeah, I finally watched the last of my Oscar nominee Best Picture ones that I was going to watch. And it was Darkest Hour, which is basically the Winston Churchill movie about when he first became prime minister. And what I didn't know, because I don't know my history that well, was that it takes place exactly at the same time as Dunkirk takes place. And I really wished that the 2 movies had just kind of been blended together, because Dunkirk doesn't have hardly any talking, or it's all visual story, basically. And Darkest Hour, it should have just been retitled Speeches, the movie, because it's literally one Winston Churchill speech after another, and they just kind of meld together. And I mean, hats off to Gary Oldman. You don't even recognize that he's in this role, and you just feel like you're watching a living recreation of what happened. But my God, there's only so many times of somebody bloviating in front of Parliament before you just go, enough, I'm done.
Yeah, done.
You know, get on with it. Show me an explosion or two, something, please. You know.
Yeah, right.
So that's why I say it would have been nice if you had while he's like, show Dunkirk, but just have his speeches playing over as the audio while the movie Dunkirk is playing, and then I would have been cool.
Dunkirk, the oration. There you go. It's the next one.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm happy to be done with the good for me movies, the prestige films, and I can get onto the utter crap that's coming out all the way up through summer, which is the stuff I like.
the get your popcorn, switch your brain off, and enjoy this ride. Yeah,
and hopefully, you know, like I just went and saw Annihilation, and it was really smart science fiction.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm expecting a few of these to actually be somewhat decent. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing Red Sparrow. I'll be seeing that this week. And of course, I'm all over the Tomb Raider movie, because
that's coming out. Okay.
Even though I didn't like the Angelina Jolie ones, I still love the game, and I can't help it. And so I don't know, I dig on that whole thing. But then I also have things coming up like, oh God, this is going to be a miserable week. Coming up in April, the only 2 new releases are a horror movie called Truth or Dare, which I don't do horror movies normally, but hey, I'm going to go see everything, right? And then the other thing is a remake of Overboard, which I hated the original. And
I don't even know what it is.
The original was Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. And Goldie Hawn was a spoiled rich socialite, and Kurt Russell was a handyman. And while on a cruise, she falls overboard and gets amnesia. And he takes her back to his country hick home and convinces her that she's poor. Oh, my wife is now filling me in. It's because she didn't pay him for the job he did. And
oh my God.
essentially life lessons are learned, and you know, at the end everything is peachy. Everybody has a better understanding of the circumstances of other people's lives. This new movie is
wonderful.
This new movie is with Anna Faris, and she is playing the worker for I don't know, the actor is he's a Spanish guy, and apparently he's rather well known for his language films. But anyway, he plays the rich guy and bumps his head, and she's the worker, and she brings him back home and convinces him that great. See, my wife is interested, right? So anyway, I'm just like, that's the week that I'm dreading. But then the following week I get Super Troopers 2. So meow.
Okay. Have you probably would have had Pacific Rim 2 out for yonks over there.
The Pacific Rim 2 comes out on March 23rd.
Okay, so it hasn't been out there yet.
Nope, they're actually been out there yet.
Sounds like the movie studios are actually getting better at doing worldwide releases, because, you know, piracy.
they actually moved up the release of Avengers by a week here.
Because Downey Jr. said, "Oh, wait, I want it earlier." Right? Because he actually sent out a tweet. I think it was.
I don't know who this person is.
Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, he tweeted that he did something that made the studio release it 2 or 3 weeks earlier than.
Well, no, what it is worldwide it was releasing a week earlier than here in the States. The States, it's one of the May 4th is, or that first week of May is traditionally now the start of our summer movie season.
Ah, right.
But elsewhere in the world, the week prior is a better release date.
Ah, see.
So, but because of A, how well Black Panther is doing, and B, the piracy issue, and C, how much money they think this thing is going to make, they kind of went, why don't we just release it worldwide at the same time and avoid a lot of these headaches? Especially since the people are worried about spoilers, because by the end of this movie, it's going to shape what's to come. And so far, Marvel has been keeping their mouth shut about anything after this movie. So they want it to be a surprise.
Massive.
So
it's going to be massive for all the geeks. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet recently that suggested that that Iron Man told us suggested that yes, I think Marvel or the film company released a thing. Are you looking forward to seeing Avengers coming out this day? And Robert goes, is it possible to get it released like a couple of weeks earlier? And I go, oh yes, Mr. Downey, I think we could probably do that. He goes, is it possible to see a screening earlier? He used that word. He said a screening earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, oh yes, Mr. Downey, we can organize that. And he said, oh, would it be possible to have some friends along as well? Yes, that'll be fine. Who? And he said, the world. And they went, yeah, why not? Let's do that. So obviously this was probably an orchestrated tweet stream.
Probably.
But it was funny, and I liked it.
What's funny is it now leaves a massive hole those first 2 weeks of May, because basically nobody wanted to release on the same day as Avengers. And then nobody wanted to release the next week because they knew that it would still be earning a buttload of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it wasn't going to be until the following week after that. That's when Deadpool 2 comes out.
Oh, man.
So now you've got this.
Yet, eh?
Oh, what's wrong with you? Well, you got kids. That's kids. What's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And believe me, you need headphones on for this one. Yeah. So now you've got this massive gap. I'm curious to know if anybody's going to shift their release and pop in, but it's, I think, only going to make Deadpool 2 have a even larger opening, because everybody will have already seen Avengers and will be primed for the next one. Yeah.
And they'll be fired up for it. Yeah.
Because then you have Deadpool 2 release, and then 2 weeks after that you have the Han Solo movie.
Oh, jeez.
So you see how, I mean, this, and that's then the absolute official start of summer here in the States. It's Memorial Day weekend is what we call it. And that used to be the traditional start of summer. And then everybody kept on kind of pushing forward and forward and forward. Now it's just kind of this year-long
thing.
Yeah. Year-long thing that starts in February for summer movies for some reason. But it should be interesting. So we're now entering my time of movies where I get to see all the crappy fun stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Quite literally the popcorn of the movie season.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife keeps on insisting that because she let me get this movie pass thing, her whole thing is you have to go see everything. I'm like, yeah. Well, there's this god awful movie called Sherlock Gnomes.
Oh yes. Yes.
And she is insisting that I'm going to have to go see this. And I'm like, I barely made it watching the trailer. There's no way I can stand sitting for an hour and a half of this dreck.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. Yep. You should go to every single kids movie and every single movie. If it's on in cinemas, mate, you got to go and see it. That's the rule.
That's the rule. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think you can feel totally vindicated to write a totally disparaging and horrible review of the movie in your particular style.
What everybody should be looking forward to is next week. There's a movie called Hurricane Heist that comes out, and it looks absolutely bonkers bad. Like its big claim to fame is it's directed by the guy that directed the first Fast and Furious movie.
All right.
Now, if you've heard me talk at all, I love this knockoff Fast and Furious movie called Torque, which is 88 minutes of pure comedy, and it's the motorcycle version of Fast and Furious. That is what I'm hoping for. I am hoping that it is so bad it's fun. And based off the trailer, we might get there, but there's no chance in hell it's going to be a good movie. There's just absolutely no way.
It's going to be good, but it's going to be good for the wrong reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be funny as.
that's what I'm hoping for on that one, at least. So anyway, and I'll try and make the reviews a little more reflective of that kind of fun, because basically all I've been doing is ranting about having to watch all these Oscar movies.
yeah, it's like, I don't like this, but I'm here, so here's my rant. Please enjoy my rant. This delicious plate of rant.
Although I did hear a funny thing with Jennifer Lawrence was talking about obviously having to watch movies because she can vote for best pictures and stuff, and she said she made it through 3 minutes of Phantom Thread, which is that movie about him sewing. And it's this movie starring Daniel Day-Lewis. He's a dress designer, and basically once he finds muses and that inspire his designs, but then he also gets romantically involved with them. But the minute that they're no longer inspiring him to design, he just drops them like a bad habit, and moves on to the next one. And Jennifer Lawrence is like, I made it through 3 minutes of that movie and then went, I have better ways to spend my time. I was like, you know what? Thank you for saying that.
That's pretty much a review right there. That's what you call a Twitter review. Done.
So I just and then I read somewhere else a reviewer that I follow or not follow but pay attention to. He writes for this website called Film Drunk, and Vince Mancini, I believe, is the writer's name, and he's pretty funny. But taking similar takes with a lot of this stuff, where it's just like, oh my god, why do I have to deal with watching this stuff? When can I watch the stuff I normally watch?
Yeah, for sure. Far out. Oh man.
No.
Well, anyway, that was actually good. That was actually a good warm-up chat.
That was our cool down chat this time, folks.
Yeah, that was a cool down warm-up. Yeah, it was good. It felt good.
No editing necessary for Jared this time around.
No, I'm happy with that, because it took me like quite literally a week to get the episode out. Like I released it yesterday. So yeah, I got there just in time, right before I had to record the next one.
Well, this is all on you though, because you insist on having your pinball first. So I threw you a bone this week.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the reason at all. It actually took me 5 minutes to resolve that problem. I quite literally just went, oh look, all this pinball talk. Geez, we did that for 10 or 12 minutes. Oh, that's going to be cut. snip, dump it to the end of the silent track, and then just dump it at the end. It was very easy for me to resolve that.
All right, folks. Hey, we always appreciate you listening to us, and we also really like it when you interact with us. You can do that via Twitter. Look up the show at BlahCade. That is where you'll find when we're doing podcasts and things related purely with pinball, and with articles that get released on the website. Otherwise, you can follow us personally. I am at Shut Your Traps. He is at Jared Morgs. And
that is the same for both Medium and Twitter. So if you want to follow us on those two platforms, that's the same handles. The other thing you can do is interact with us on Medium by easily creating an account. It will take just a couple of minutes. And then for each of the articles that you like, you can give us a little clap. Yep. It's the version of like on Medium, but less lame. So so yeah, go and have a go and see what else you can find on Medium. There's plenty of cool stuff. So check it out.
Alrighty, well, until next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.